Thanks for coming along. I'm Lee, and we're going to be going over roadside drug testing today and how it works, how things stay in the system, how ways to change that, and some misconceptions about roadside testing and ways to get around it. And like Ronnie said, I'm going to look for some volunteers. And so I would like 2 people that don't mind doing a couple of drug tests and then being a guinea pig for testing some other things. And you have to think you're going to get positive. So is there any 2 people that are willing to get drug tested? Bingo. Come on up.
You got a lady?
Come on up. Oh, you want a lady?
Oh, he looks good to me.
Yeah, sweet. Come on.
I would, but I can't walk.
Oh, neither. Hello, what's your name?
David.
David. Nice to meet you. And I know you well. Alright guys, so what we're going to do first, before I start into the workshop, we're just going to get a positive read to make sure that's going to work. So what I want you to do is pull this out, the grey thing, and put that in your mouth, rub it round until it changes colour. Yeah, I would, and rub it really hard, I guess. Rub it everywhere. Get in there. You too, grab that grey thing, rub it around. Okay, so what I want to get, the main 2 areas I'm going to go over, is that coloured? Yep, cool. Can you put it in there and push it till it clicks? Yep, put the table, yep. And then shake it up. So there's 2 areas we're going to be talking about. The first one is going to be cannabis, and then we're also going to be focusing on the amphetamine classes, so MDMA, methamphetamine, because they're the predominant things that they test for, THC and MDMA, methamphetamine, but they work very differently. And that's good. Can you push it in there? Click. Yeah, shake it. Yeah, I'll shake it. Cool. You guys can go to the seat for now. I'll call you up a bit later. Thank you. Alrighty, so first of all we'll talk about THC. Now, what a lot of people don't realise, and if anyone's got any questions at any time, just interrupt, put your hand up. It can definitely be a back and forth. What a lot of people don't realise is that when they test for THC on the roadside tests, they they're not testing for an impairment. All they're testing for is contamination of cannabis in your mouth. So if you consume cannabis, it will touch your mouth, and then it sticks to the inside of your mouth. It really loves fat, it's a fat-loving molecule. And then it just sticks to the inside of your mouth. And that has no relation to how you're feeling impairment-wise for driving. And everybody's different on how long it stays there. But then the drug test, they get you to swipe, and that detects the THC that's just stuck to your mouth. So normally when you consume cannabis, most of it actually gets excreted out in your poo, and that's about 65% of it, and then around about 20% comes out in your urine. And so, unlike the P tests, which people do at work, those tests, they test for the metabolites of THC, which is called THC-COOH, and that is also fat-loving. And it hangs around your body for, it can be weeks sometimes. But generally, the THC that gets stuck in your mouth, that can come out very quickly. That's why they use it. But there is a lot of factors that dictate how it gets into your mouth, how much sticks, and how long it sticks around for. So we know that you don't get any THC coming from your bloodstream into your saliva, and they've known there's some studies where they get radio-labelled a molecule of THC that they put a radioactive isotope on. They give that in a capsule or an injection, and then they test the oral fluids, and then they've never been able to detect the crossing from the blood into your oral cavity. And so there's really not that much known data on exactly what causes more THC to stick in your mouth, or less, or how long it stays in there for. It's very context dependent on you personally and your mouth hygiene, and not just hygiene, how you smoke. So there's something called puff topography, and that is the kind of the science of how people smoke. So if you like to smoke spliffs or just joints or bongs, how long you keep that smoke in your mouth, the longer you keep it there, the more deposition you'll get in your mouth. The more frequently you smoke, the more you'll get deposited, and so on. And it's a bit of a sliding scale. So if you're having bongs, that's probably one of the highest deposition rate into your mouth. Spliffs is also really high. The nicotine is an irritant to your mouth and the tobacco smoke, and it makes it more sticky, so then more THC gets stuck to your mouth. If you're vaping, a lot less gets deposited in your mouth from a vape. And edibles, if you're having edibles, very little gets stuck into your mouth. It depends on how much you chew. If it's a brownie and you have it in your mouth for ages, but if it's a gummy and you just swallow it, very little will come up. So something to keep in mind is how you consume your cannabis.
What about oil
Again, how you consume it.
on your tongue?
Some of it would stick to your tongue. If you put that oil in a capsule, you wouldn't come up at all. Yeah, because it hasn't touched your oral cavity. I'm glad you mentioned oil, because THC actually loves to be in oil and it hates to be in water. So if you've consumed cannabis and you don't feel impaired and you want to drive, you can do things like get an oil and wash your mouth out with oil. Scrub your tongue, scrub your cheeks very hard, because it gets quite deep into all these crevices in your mouth. And when they get you to do the drug test, they get you to scrape it on your tongue or cheek quite hard, and the act of doing that pushes all the THC out of your mouth. So the test results generally should be different depending on how hard you push the test on your mouth. They don't have evidence for this yet, but this is just how the tests work. So if you can get more liquid in there, more saliva, without actively kind of scrubbing it across your tongue, your cheeks, is less likely to hit that threshold, critical threshold, and come up as positive. Things like soybean oil, sesame oil, olive oil, THC loves being in them. It loves it a lot. Having a really dry mouth, everyone's got a cotton mouth before, that can also affect how much saliva you make, and then you have to have the swab in your mouth for longer, which is more likely to bring more THC up. But simple things like how much you eat. So eating, the act of chewing, strips the THC out of your mouth. Brushing your teeth, the more you brush your teeth, the better, and your gums and your tongue. How much water you drink. They've shown that just having a drink of water before you do the drug test there's more saliva in your mouth. So then there's more saliva, it kind of dilutes it out a little bit, so you're less likely to get caught. There are quite a few anecdotal things going around of what you can do to get round a test. And has anyone heard of any things that you might be able to use?
Numbing gel, like the baby one.
Numbing
I
gel?
think it's full of aniseed too.
Full of aniseed, yeah, okay. Haven't heard that one before.
Sucking on a copper coin.
A copper coin, delicious.
Having an antacid.
Having an antacid,
Yeah.
yep. Apple cider vinegar, heard of that one?
Mouthful of fisherman friends.
Mouthful of fisherman's friend,
Yeah.
yep. Any more? Peroxide. Oh, that's a good one. Far out. That does not sound fun. Sterilise that mouth. Well, that's really interesting. So there's a lot of studies that have looked at what you can do to get rid of it. Generally, when they do studies on it, none of them been shown to have a positive effect on what people would like to do. Having some liquid in your mouth has a positive effect, but some of the things actually can have a negative effect on some of the tests. So someone mentioned apple cider vinegar. There's been multiple studies that have shown that apple cider vinegar can cause false positives for up to 30 minutes after you wash your mouth out with it. Those tests, they have got false positives. They're not the same tests that the police use, but I don't think it's been tested on the ones the police use. So I would really suggest not to use the apple cider vinegar. Yeah.
So
There's
how
just,
about balsamic vinegar?
it seems that it's just the acetic acid itself.
Yeah.
The vinegar acid itself can cause, it's an antibody assay, and it binds it, and it can just get in there and cause false positives.
Malic acid.
Yeah, that is an acid, but it seems that doesn't have the same effect as causing false positives. It also doesn't seem to lower the concentration in your mouth. There are things known like citric acid, and citric acid was used in a lot of the early studies because it's an expectorant. It makes you salivate, so you produce a lot more saliva, so it was really easy for the researchers to collect all the saliva. But what they found is, because your body pumps out a lot of saliva very quickly, every single drug they tested was much lower in that saliva. But the caveat of that is you have to use that saliva straight away. So if you put some citric acid in your mouth, which you can get from the supermarket for baking, you get a lot of saliva being made, but you can't really talk. So you can't have the saliva just in your mouth driving up to a roadside test and they ask you what your name is and you're blah, blah, blah. You know, it doesn't really work. And if you swallow that saliva, it goes back to being positive again. So just for the THC, it's really analysing how often you smoke, how you smoke, brushing your teeth, eating a lot, and sometimes the best way to do it is just test yourself, get a couple of tests, and work out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Have we got any more specific questions about THC?
Oil, how long does it stay on your tongue? Like you put it on your tongue and you get tested, how long is it going to stay positive for? Like 12 hours?
Yeah, that is a really, there's no definitive answer because it's very individualistic. So it can be as little as 4 hours. Like when some people, they get them to have a dose. Some people, they go away very quickly. 4 hours, they're totally clear. Other people, it's 2 days. So that's how much variation there is in individual people. Yeah. So the other drugs they test for, the main ones they test for would be methamphetamine and MDMA. And so that's the same test. It doesn't differentiate between those two molecules on the first test. And it works in a different way. Before I go on, does everyone know what happens if you come up positive on a roadside drug test? You then go into the truck or the van or that thing, and then they use another test called a cortisone or Rapsican. That test is again a saliva one, but that tests for a lot more drugs, and it's much more sensitive. And so the real goal is to not come up on the first test, because if you come up on the first test, it's much more complex. They send the sample away for analysis and whatnot. So you really want to avoid that first positive. Okay, so amphetamines and their derivatives, so methamphetamine and MDMA, when you consume that, your body, most of it gets excreted by your kidneys. Amphetamine's up to like 90%, MDMA 70-80%. It all comes out within 48 hours. But your saliva glands actively take it from your blood, and they put it into your saliva. and they put it into your saliva that's around about 200 times more concentrated than your blood. So it can be almost not very detectable in blood, but then you can get massively detected in your saliva. It is dependent on how long it stays in your body. Again, there's a lot of people want to give advice on how long to drive after you take an MDMA, like you've been at a festival, you've had can I drive the next day, or is it 24 hours, is it 48 hours? That very much depends on you, how much water you drink, how much food you eat, because that's the more the body has to excrete out of its kidneys, the more it will excrete the MDMA or methamphetamine or whatever out of your body. And so, because we know that most of it comes out the urine, there's actually, and if you then acidify the urine, it comes out much, much faster. And so when the law says with the drug driving, drug driving is if you have detectable drugs in your system. So if there's a way to get them out of your body faster, then you're no longer drug driving. It doesn't really matter how long it's been since you've taken it. If it's no longer there, that's not drug driving. It doesn't mean you're not impaired, but that just you don't want to drive when you're impaired, but that's just the reality of it. And so, because they've known for a long time that if you acidify urine, you get more amphetamines excreted, there's things you can do to yourself if you're taking it and you want to drive. Having ascorbic acid, which is also known as vitamin C, large doses or mega doses of vitamin C will also, that's an acid, these amphetamines are bases. When it puts the acid out in your urine, the kidneys filter it out, they also push out the weak bases, which are all the drugs themselves. So they've known about this for years. They used to use vitamin C injections if people are having amphetamine psychosis on very large doses. They basically inject massive doses of vitamin C and they piss it all out and they come back down to normal. And so what you can do, and what I suggest, is having vitamin C on you all the time. And if you've taken, say, MDMA, I would suggest that when you're done for the night, have 4 vitamin C before you go to bed in a glass of water. You get up in the morning, you have 4 every hour.
4 grams.
4 tablets, and they're generally 500 milligrams a tablet. That's quite a lot of vitamin C, but vitamin C, luckily, I'm not a medical doctor, but it's very well tolerated, and you just have to make your own mind up. But doing so can get it out of your system very, very quickly. Within 24 hours, it could all be gone. I've tested it myself. I know other people that have. If you're worried, you should also get some drug tests and do it yourself. Has anyone got any specific questions about that? Yep.
You keep talking about the tests. Is there anywhere in Newman to get them?
I don't know about it in Linden. Sorry. There is a company called Blow Me First, and in Victoria they're actually at a lot of the festivals. You can buy tests off them directly online and get them sent. They're pretty expensive. You want to get a good one, like a reliable one. You can't get the one that the police use exactly. They're not for sale, but you can get ones that have more in them. And it's always good to get a couple and just test yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about, say, I've just told you about acidifying your urine, and in some wellness circles people talk about acidifying foods that you can eat that will change your blood. That doesn't happen. You can't really change your urinary pH from eating general foods. You would have to eat a lot of them, and your body is very good at buffering its pH. You need very specific things like, say, ascorbic acid or very large doses of bicarbonate soda will swing it the other way, will make it more alkaline. But you don't really get it from, say, eating cheeses, things like that, which you can find that online. Often people will say you can eat a lot of cheese or have a lot of meat or lentils and that will lower your urinary pH. or change your pH, but that doesn't really happen. Let's have a look at these tests and see what they came up with. I'm not sure they worked. Can I get my volunteers to come back up, please? Okay, so this was your test, I believe, and so I think the red line's meant to go away. So you came up as negative. Yeah.
You can go.
Sorry?
You can go.
Off you
You
go.
can go.
Free to leave.
And I think you kind of came up as negative too. Let's do it again. It didn't make sense, does it? I saw you. Yeah, I saw that too.
I hope they're the ones the cops have got.
Yeah. And this is the thing also about these tests. They do have false positive and false negative rates. How they've been stored and whatnot. So sometimes you can just be really unlucky and you'll not have had anything and it will come up as positive. When it comes up as, if you've had something that's not on the test, say benzo or something like that, they can actually, even though you haven't had the ones that they detect on here, on that second test, then it will get brought up. Had a gummy? Yeah. Generally, gummies don't really come up.
Why is that?
Because it's only contamination in your mouth. It has to touch your mouth and the THC gets deposited from this generally smoke. But if you have a gummy and you just like swallow it straight away or chew it minorly, there's not enough time to coat your oral cavity. And it's less likely it's going to come up.
Online there's a little bit of like, oh, maybe it does make this
No.
be confident on.
Yep. There's heaps of studies. And the interesting thing is, does that change colour? Yeah. Cool. Push it there. All the way till it clicks. Give it a good shake. Shake for about 15 seconds. Yeah, there's actually, it was interesting because the TGA used to allow encapsulated THC to be prescribed, and then they realised that it didn't come up on drug tests, so then they took it away. Which is interesting because it's not their job to dictate. Their job is to define if drugs are safe to take, not if they get around drug tests or not. So, okay, we'll just leave this for a while here. Yeah, shake the hell out of that.
But if you had, the gummies are nice flavours, and if you had it in your mouth for 5 minutes,
Yep.
enough to...
It would be more likely, yeah, but it's different from smoke. Smoke deposits a lot, yeah. And we're talking edibles are like 10-fold lower, which is enough to be on the cusp of that threshold where you may not get detected at all. Yeah. Okay, we'll leave those to sit for 5 minutes. That's right. Yeah. And especially because a lot of people don't feel impaired when they get caught. You know, it's worn off, but it's just hanging around their mouth. There's no real test for impairment. It's just test for you've used it at some point.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. There's no levels to say that you're really off your face. It's
No.
got a tiny little bit there, you know, like with alcohol it's 0.05, 0.0, it's got low, mid-range, high range. This has got nothing.
Yeah, it's got
So
nothing at all.
how's it going? It might not even be affecting your driving ability at all, but still could be dangerous.
Yes, that's right.
Or you could be off your head as well.
Yeah, I mean there has been studies as well on THC, or like cannabis use and driving as well, and like out of Canada, and they found that a lot of people that regularly smoked cannabis, they weren't impaired, even when they were actively high, which Yeah, you shouldn't be driving when you're impaired. That's definitely. No matter what that is, that impairment could be being tired. If you're tired, it's the equivalent of being drunk. So driving while you're impaired is not the goal. You don't want to. This information also is not meant to be there so you can take drugs and drive. It's just meant to be there so you don't get positive on a test when after you've had them and you don't feel impaired. Okay. These are running, but they look like they're potentially. So we're going to test after these come up positive or negative. We're going to do the apple cider vinegar test. We're going to see if that works. I also have a tincture here from a plant that grows locally. It's called a toothache plant. And this thing makes your mouth salivate a lot. It's really tingly, but we will see if that salivation is clean or if it's still dirty. And then we might do another test, if I have enough, on just rinsing your mouth out. So I didn't click the test down before, so that's why that didn't work. That's my bad. So, okay, these ones are coming up now. Yeah, you're both coming up positive. Brilliant. Huh? That's right. Oh, I don't know how to do it. Okay, I need my volunteers back.
Step up.
Step up to the plate.
Come on, dear.
Do you want to try this spray? Okay, so I would give you like 2 to 4 sprays in your mouth. And what I want you to do is rub this around your mouth, but don't rub it really hard in your... Yeah, give it a minute till the saliva comes up. But don't rub it really hard in your cheeks. Okay. Do you want to try the apple cider vinegar? Cool. Well, you can open that. Now just put some in your mouth, gargle it round, maybe spit it out around the corner. And then we will test that straight away. Rinse it around as much as you can. Shake. Great. Do the same thing, so just rub it around your mouth. Try not to rub it aggressively, just get all the saliva you can.
Yeah. What was the reason that apple cider vinegar doesn't work again?
It doesn't stop coming up, but it can cause some false positives on some of the tests. Yes, it's the things the vinegar itself, acetic acid, can cause some false positives for a whole range of different drugs. Cool. Is that colour gone? Yep. Stick it in there, crack it down. Yep, that's it. Perfect. Leave that for a second. Yes, no, that's fine. Thank you. Thanks for volunteering. Yep, cool. All right, thank you. Who reckons this apple cider is going to work? Good. So last time I gave this workshop, we tried citric acid as well, and it seemed to reduce the amount of everything that was detected, but it was only while you had the saliva in your mouth, and it also reduced the control band, which means that if the control band doesn't come up, they do the test again. So it seems like it's not really a viable way to not be positive. Not even just for the whole having the saliva in your mouth while you're talking to the police.
What about biotine?
I haven't tested biotine. Oh, actually, we tested it 2 years ago. It didn't really work. But this was the biotine mouthwash, and I've heard the gel is different. Yeah. Yes, but I haven't tested it. It's probably something I'll do next workshop. Yeah. It's probably better to do it with oil, just because THC is much more soluble in oil than it is in ethanol. Yeah, I mean, but in general, washing your mouth out with anything, even water, can make it go down quite a lot. So having a dry mouth isn't ideal.
What about iodine tongue scrapers?
Yep. So I think tongue scraping can help, just for the fact that if you scrape a lot at home, you're squeezing it all out of the little crevices and the little villi that are really, they're quite deep. So the more you either like rub things over your tongue, even your teeth, that can squeeze more of it out. Just when you brush your teeth, that can help.
So prior to the test, give
a good scrape, but generally as well, just, as part of your oral hygiene, you can just incorporate that if you think you're going to be driving. Yeah. Okay. Vinegar is still positive. That sucks. But the toothache plant has come up as negative. Interesting. Is your mouth still tingling? Okay, that's good to know. What we might do is I'll get you up here again and let's repeat it.
Yeah, can you repeat the name of the plant?
It's called toothache plant.
Toothache plant?
Yeah. I was just given this.
That's a scientific name.
Yeah.
I was just given this because it produces a nice feeling in the mouth. But I don't know, no idea. So check that out. That's the band has clearly come up, which means negative. So it's probably been about 5 minutes-ish since we sprayed it on. I've only got a positive cannabis. Does anyone? I don't have an MDMA positive person. Yeah. Good. Did you shake? Okay. Good. Thanks. If anyone took MDMA last night, we can do them. No. That could work because 3 states now test for cocaine. That would be New South Wales, South Australia, and Queensland.
It's worth adding that New South Wales, to determine that they should turn on the button for cocaine, tested all the sewage treatment plants, and they found that something I put on for free. The most cocaine usage in New South Wales was Bondi, then Byron Bay. But I think Byron Bay probably eclipses it because of septic systems. They don't test. So anyway.
Yep. That's right.
Tax dollars well spent.
Yeah, totally. Oh no, I can't test for. Oh, I can. Do the cocaine person want to do it as well? Yeah. Yeah, see if it comes up. So, yeah, cool. So just put that in your mouth, rub it around, make sure, and then the tip will change colour when it's got enough saliva in it. all that saliva gone.
Too much fun last night.
Oh, so you'll come up positive for THC too? Great. How's that looking now? Correcting it down. Yeah, cool. Stick it in there. Okay, now so if it comes up positive, what do you want to try? Do you want to test the toothache or the apple cider?
I did try the aniseed stuff on the way in, but the cops weren't out there. I've heard apple cider vinegar don't really work anyway. I've heard just rinsing your mouth out with water.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to try just rinsing out with water? Have you got a water bottle over there, please? Disco sister? She's not listening. Excuse me?
Water there.
Yeah, can you maybe go on there and grab one? Just give her a wave. Okay, so that second test of that toothache plant, 5 minutes later, that is positive. So the effect doesn't last long. It seems similar to citric acid. So it would only be really useful straight away once you had the spray in your mouth and the saliva that collected.
So rinse out now.
Yeah, just rinse your mouth out now.
So you don't know what it's positive for, okay?
That one was positive for THC.
Yeah, so it only lasts a little bit. You got to spray it on, get tested, bang.
Yeah. Yeah, similar to the citric acid, it must make a lot of saliva and a lot of clean saliva, and you don't need to rub it around your mouth as much to collect enough saliva for the test, and that kind of washes it out, I guess, the effect. But then if you swallow all that saliva, it's back to the same as if you'd had nothing. So a very short window of being effective. And yeah. I mean, things like that you can just spray on before a drug test, like while you're driving. If they've got a really short window, it's not really a feasible thing because,
Yeah, that spray will work. You just get pulled over, bang, bang.
Yeah, but it depends how long it lasts. You might be waiting in line, or you might have to talk to them. You can hardly bring out the spray.
You can just watch them the other side.
Yeah, if they suspect that you have had a drink of, when you get pulled over, they ask you, have you eaten or drunken anything in the last either half an hour or 10 minutes? If you say yes, they will make you wait. They'll pull you over, they'll just make you wait for 10 minutes, and then they'll test you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really work. Okay, where's old mate that washed his mouth out?
Evidence is just how I minimise RDT positives for other drugs.
No, not really. Yeah. Like you mean washing your mouth out with alcohol?
Yeah.
No, that doesn't really cause false positives. But it can lower the level detected, but it's no more than just washing your mouth out with water and staying hydrated and eating and whatnot. Okay, so that one came up for cocaine. That one came up for THC as well. Okay.
You lucky boy.
You didn't get ripped off.
Yeah. Really.
How's that looking? A little bit more. A bit more saliva. If anyone wants to come up and try this spray, you're welcome to. Okay, how's that now? Yeah, stick it in.
Only drank about, only rinsed out about that much though. So.
That's all right. I mean, that's enough to see what's happened. 100% go for it. Okay, we got any final questions while this is running?
What's the essence of the spray?
This is a tincture of something called a toothache plant. Toothache
I've got the
plant.
name, I'll give it to you.
What's
Toothache plant is, Latin name is Acapella or... There you go.
Yeah, I can give it to you later.
Okay. I thought it was called Spolangia or something, but I think
Spilanthe?
Spilanthe.
Yeah, so electric daisy juice is the common street name for a preparation of it. I
Yeah.
thought that's what it might be. So it's like a party in your mouth where everyone's invited to it.
Yeah, it is definitely Amasia or yeah, I don't know.
Anyone needs it, they can come see us.
Anyone good on that?
Yeah. Where's Kane? Anyway, we've got the answer.
Yeah.
Toothache plant. It grows around here.
Makes sense, mate.
We've got about 5 minutes left, so do you want to take a couple of questions?
Do you think they're going to do any changes to adding drugs like ketamine to the drug testing?
Are they going to add any drugs?
I mean,
Specifically,
ketamine.
the adoption
Oh,
of
ketamine.
ketamine is skyrocketed.
Yeah.
What's the rub on why they don't do that? Obviously, it's an anesthetic.
Cost.
Cost.
So the biggest, what I mean, if the police had their way, they would be testing everything.
Like in Norway.
But it's just super expensive.
Okay.
So the police have to justify using drug tests. They have to justify the money spent on the drug tests, and there has been reports looked into it, and they already have been told that they're not allowed to spend any more money on drug tests because there's no added benefit. It's not stopping people dying. It's similar to breath testing, like roadside breath testing. The biggest thing is the advertising campaigns that you're going to get breath tested. That has the biggest effect, and then the breath testing itself has a big effect as well. But just
It's like
having it there is a big effect.
speed cameras in New South Wales. You have to warn them with the sign.
Yes.
Speed cameras.
Same in Victoria, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a question?
So the question in the legislation that's been changed or attempted to be changed purely on the fact of being awarded medical capability to smoke marijuana, is that going to happen with psilocybin?
With psilocybin, did you say?
Psilocybin or fucking whatever.
That you could drive on it?
Driving on shrooms.
Well, I don't think so.
I think they're more likely to add K in, but...
Yeah. And they also, I don't know if there is a test or not to...
Laugh what you like,
Yeah.
but it's a genuine question.
Yeah.
If you want to split the hair between individuals,
I think what you're getting at is that.
it's probably give me your last 5 minutes that you got, and not just rock in because I just debate locally.
So medically
So
legalised.
my final question is that if you're willing enough to put your nuts on the chopping block, if you're willing enough to put your nuts on the chopping block and talk about the difference between making that legislation change, then what's your answer? Do you think you can do it, or within the powers of the next 50 years see that?
I'm not involved in the legislation change.
Okay, but at least you're obviously
Legalised
not
cannabis
an individual.
Yeah.
But have you got the essence and the laws to back it up and keep pushing it?
Yeah, well, there are people that are looking to change, especially with the cannabis laws.
Because all this change needs to happen from
Yeah.
a lot higher
Yeah.
than us.
Yeah.
That could be good for the world, for the whole world here, because if we can grow our own cannabis at home, we keep the money, it's not
So you can
going
do it
to the
in
black
bank, you
market.
can do it in ACT.
Yeah, no, and this is the thing, they're looking to change the laws, and people with prescriptions might be able to end up driving. What I feel like what will happen is that, like you mentioned with ketamine, is what's already happened a little bit, is they're just introducing other drugs into the detection phase. So if THC gets phased out, they might just test for methamphetamine, MDMA and cocaine, or maybe then test for ketamine. So the scale might slide.
Because at that time it'll be so fucking highly sympathised to the fact that they know exactly what they're testing for by looking at you. Therefore, one more minute, the sheer fact that if you want to keep talking the talk and resist up to walking the walk, then I'm walking around on their ears.
Waterstone reckons told me last night 1 month. In 1 month in New South Wales, the argument is exclusive knowledge.
Oh, no, I don't
Yeah,
mean
they're really pushing it.
I don't mean to stick on the conversation, but I
Yeah.
feel like I need
That's
to
right.
say,
Do you mean in regards to psilocybin, a lot of people take psilocybin in a capsule, so it's not really going to show up in this test. So that's probably the safe bet you'd be taking psilocybin and take it in a capsule because it will bypass this test even if they did add it.
Personally, I like it on my finger.
That's okay, yeah. So I'm just saying for those who are looking to skip the test, I don't know how psilocybin goes in the mouth, so
Yeah,
it
they
will
don't-
depend on how it goes in the mouth as to
Yeah.
how they would make a test.
There is a antibody. Yeah, I mean they'll be able to have an antibody against it and generate a test. It's just at the moment they don't test for any psychedelics.
Anyway, sorry to speak all your last 5 minutes.
No, all good.
Do you know what happens with the samples, the biological data or biometric data? Or
Yes.
Do they discard it? Or
So if you go into do the Rapsican test, that's the second test.
Yeah.
They collect like a ml of saliva,
Yeah.
and then they send that off to a lab. And even if you come up negative in that second test, but then your saliva is positive on the lab analysis, you still get off.
Sorry, I meant the data retention policies with your biological data being enhanced to government.
You mean like the initial test?
They could know the one you mentioned, or it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, it's just an umbrella concept.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they do with it.
They could retroactively test you for whatever they want.
Yeah, I don't think.
Potentially, some 1984 type shit. But what happens to biological data you're giving them?
Yeah, I mean, I think they just test it and then discard it. But then they've got the test data. So
They'd have to store it.
They just run it.
Yeah.
Another really quick
yeah,
question.
cool, they do.
One more question. Really quick one.
Yep.
What's the database called that when the government agencies make a case note on oneself? What's that called?
Oh, I've got no idea. Anyone else?
Lee doesn't work for the government, luckily.
Quite the
I
opposite.
suppose it's a question for everyone else.
Cool, well, I'll be around all weekend. If anyone else has got any questions, feel free to come up and chat to me.
What's your name again? Sorry.
Lee.
Lee Mills.
Lee Mills, thank you.
Miles.
Miles.
Sorry.
Everyone put their hand together for Lee Shaw and one shot testing.